Welcome to Thriving Entrepreneur with your host, Steve Kidd, third-generation minister and 30-year business coach. Listen in as amazing, world-changing authors, speakers, and coaches share their struggles and victories. And hear from best-selling authors' insight into how you too can live your life as a thriving entrepreneur.
This is Steve. Welcome to Thriving Entrepreneur. Thanks for being with me here today as we talk about what does security look like? What does it mean to truly be secure? What does it mean growing up as a child to feel safe and secure at your home? What kind of elements does it take for that? What does it take to ensure and secure your future? What kind of things can you do to feel secure when accidents happen? And what can you do to grow your business in a secure type of a way? I've got 4 really amazing guests. We are going to cram pack this episode full with you, do very little talking, no commercials again. We want to jump right in and talk to some guests and see if we can give you some different looks at what does it mean to be secure as we help you live as a thriving entrepreneur. And with that said, let's jump in to our first guest. Join me in welcoming Bryan Scuderi. Hey, Bryan, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing really good, thanks. First off, tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Yeah, so I own a company called Unbreakable Dads, which started back in 2021 after I found myself becoming a father, being about 40 pounds overweight. I had a come to Jesus moment a little bit, you could say, and started to make some changes in my life. But I found a lot of struggles with being a dad and, owning my own business and all the different trials and tribulations of I want to be in shape, but it just felt like everything was working against me. So I found very simple strategies that I started to implement into my life. And I just kind of stumbled upon opening up Unbreakable Dads through helping a couple of friends do the same thing. And now we help clients lose anywhere between 25 and 50 pounds in less than 6 months without restrictive diets and in less than 5 hours a week of exercise.
I love that. So what does the concept of Unbreakable Dads mean to you? Does it have more to do with them living healthy, or is there a bigger part of it? Or tell me a little bit more about that.
So I believe that a dad's purpose is to lead his family, and not necessarily by being the big macho man all the time, right? Because sometimes my wife leads the family when it comes to the kids and things like that. She's a natural caretaker, but I don't make all the decisions, but the way that I show up for my family is extremely important. And I found that when the dad is in a great place, well, physically, it typically leaks into the mental side of things. And then we show up as cooler, calmer, collected, and more providers for our family. So when I say unbreakable dads, what I mean is more so from the mentality side of things of not breaking to everyday life. There's so much stress. And again, I'm not taking away from the moms that are listening to this. I'm just speaking specifically to the dads. There's so much stress that we naturally inherit as fathers from being a great example to our kids, providing for the family, making sure we're showing up financially, and then coming home and we're typically the fun parent, right? The kids want to wrestle. They want to run around the backyard. They want to throw the ball. And if our health isn't in check, we don't have those foundational habits, it's hard for our mind to be in check. And then we just kind of sometimes fall victim to circumstances, situations, events. So by locking in those foundational habits, by taking care of ourselves, we start to pour back into our family, back into our career, back into our life from a full cup versus a half empty cup.
I love that. Absolutely. And, we're going to probably get ourselves in trouble here a little bit, but that's okay. A dad is an important thing, and being the protector, provider, leader, if you will, even of your household, doesn't in any way diminish mom. It's just a matter of a dad is a really cool thing too, and that's all right as well.
Agreed. Yeah, I think that when a man steps into that role and takes full responsibility as being the provider, as being the protector, he helps his wife fully embrace being the best mom that she can be as well.
So, I mean, we're talking about a really deep subject, so there won't be time to do much of it now, but let's talk about one thing. What is one very specific thing that a dad could do to be more unbreakable? Is that the right word?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. You say more unbreakable. In my opinion, the single greatest habit that you can have is beginning to take care of your body through rigorous exercise. We live in such a soft, easy, quick microwave society of I can get food delivered to my house. I can now even get groceries delivered to my house through Amazon, right? Like everything can be here now and easy and quick that without any sort of self-imposed adversity, we can kind of just float through life. And so by doing rigorous exercise, it's going to challenge your body, it's going to challenge your mind. It will naturally, it has to happen. It will naturally raise your self-confidence. It will naturally help you feel better. You will get release endorphins. The mental side effects of fitness are unparalleled. And you will start to experience a new level of energy throughout your life just by exercising. Even if you don't nail the diet every single day, just working out, doing rigorous exercise is going to help you show up better as a father and as a professional.
So, you say rigorous exercise. So, what is the difference between what quantifies as rigorous? I guess I'll be how I'll say that.
Yeah, like what I mean by that is like sometimes guys get into they see things on Instagram or they see things on social media and it's like, oh, I got to get my steps, and like my workout is hitting my 10,000 steps per day. It's like that's not a workout. Like a workout is heavy breathing. A workout is getting the heart racing. It's moving some heavy weight. It's challenging yourself. It's pushing yourself. Like you should know what your limits are. And then you should be consistently working on expanding those limits because we as human beings, especially men, do not find happiness in the status quo. We don't, right? If you think that you want to keep everything the same, you're going to be very unhappy. You're going to find yourself riddled with anxiety, riddled with doubt. And if you're constantly battling those feelings, it's just because you're not overcoming the fear of stepping out of your comfort zone by doing rigorous exercise. And I don't care if that's Orange Theory, going out for a long run, doing a HIIT class, joining the boot camp, or just going to the gym and moving some weights like you did when you were in high school or college. You're going to test yourself. You're going to push yourself and you're going to butt up against a mental wall. And it's good for you to know where that is. And it's because now you know where you are and you can take it to the next level. The next time you step into the gym, you can push past that limit. You can push past that discomfort. And by doing so, you enter the realm of progress. And my friends, progress is happiness. When you are consistently progressing and you are consistently getting better, it's not necessarily the achievement of the goal that brings you satisfaction, but it's the process of progress towards the achievement of the goal is where you will be most happy. And you can find that every single day in the gym because there's always a way to get better every single time.
I love that. So, what keeps us from doing it? I mean, you talked about some of the lifestyle things, but why don't people just, men specifically, hear you say that and immediately go out and break rocks or something?
I wish they did, right? So there's a lot of factors. I think it boils down to just a couple though, right? These are like the big dominoes if I could boil it down. Number one, men feel stuck. And if you're feeling stuck and you're listening to this, it's actually not your fault. And the reason why I say that is because you are riddled with information getting slammed down your throat every minute of the day. If you open up your phone and you go on Facebook or Instagram, there's a million and one accounts that are telling you conflicting ideologies. 1 minute, meat is good. The next minute, meat is bad. You got one side of the fence saying that you should eat eggs. You got one side of one side of the fence saying you shouldn't eat eggs. It's like it leaves you confused and it leaves people what I like to call, which is like info beasts, right? Like you're fat with information, but you don't know how to do anything about it. So if you're feeling stuck, human beings naturally will gravitate towards the path that they believe is right. However, every day when you hear two conflicting paths, you become confused on what's right. So you end up winding up not doing anything. This is how you can know what to do without actually doing anything and just procrastinating. The second thing is human beings, this is just playing into their psychology. We are tribal individuals, right? We love communities. We love being a part of something. We do not want to be the odd man out. And so by doing so, well, this is the question, right? So if you take an inventory of the 5 people you spend the most time with, how many of them are extremely serious about their health and fitness? Truly, like think about the people you spend time with at work, the office, and at home. Who's taking their health and fitness very seriously? For 99.9% of people listening to this, the answer to that is 0 or 1. And so if we are the product of the 5 people we spend the most time with, and the 5 people we spend the most time with don't take their health and fitness seriously and don't do anything about it, naturally and subconsciously, out of your control, you will not do anything about it. This is why Unbreakable Dads has been so powerful for the hundreds of men that have gone through my program, is because we have a community. They're no longer feeling alone or isolated or that the only one. They are the only one taking their health and fitness seriously. They can communicate with dads from all across the country, all across North America. In fact, we even have some guys out in Europe who are experiencing the same trials, the same tribulations, the same struggles, achieving the same things on the same roadmap, pushing each other, holding each other accountable. And it's become a bit of a brotherhood, which is a lot of fun. And what we do is we build a roadmap that cuts through all the noise. So now you know, based on the fact that the roadmap is customized to you, you know that it's right. A heck of a lot easier to take action. Then secondly, you have a community of other men behind you. And so now you don't feel alone, you don't feel isolated, and you feel like you're part of a tribe that's all taking this seriously. So now you feel like by taking your health and fitness seriously, you're actually included versus if you just do it on your own and you're the only one doing it, you actually feel excluded. And subconsciously, you're going to hold yourself back from taking action. So those would be the 2 big dominoes that I would say are holding men back. And if they're listening to this, hopefully some light bulbs went off for them of why they haven't just been quite able to figure it out just yet.
Oh, I love that so much. So for the people listening, how can they become part of what you're doing?
Yeah. So I communicate with all potential clients through Instagram. So you can actually go to Instagram and type in at Unbreakable Dads, one word. You'll see me pop up there. I actually manage all of the messages that come through myself. I don't outsource that because we work with each client one-on-one. So I like to make sure that it's in 100% alignment. You could send me a message. You could just DM me the word fast. We utilize the fast method. So cool little keyword there. And I can ask you a couple questions, share some information on how you could potentially get started, and you can apply to work with us today.
I love that. Well, before I let you go, give us some words of encouragement. There's lots of men out there, I'm sure, that are feeling discouraged and like they've tried stuff before that hasn't worked. So give us some words of encouragement.
If you've tried it all, you've done keto, you've done Whole30, you've done Orange Theory, you've done HIIT classes, all those different things, and nothing's worked. I want to let you know I did too. I even did Weight Watchers. I went to all the meetings with the women on the Sundays, and I was like the only guy there. And just so you know, just because you may have felt like other things didn't work in the past or nothing's going to work for you, that's just a story that you're telling yourself, and you haven't found it just quite yet. Look, failure isn't final. All you have to do is take the next step, and it's very simple. Simply work on getting 1% better every single week, and within 6 to 24 weeks, you're going to be a completely different human being. And it takes discipline. It's not easy, but if you're committed, you could definitely stick to it for a long period of time.
I love that so much, Bryan. And give us the URL one more time.
Yeah, so if you just go to Instagram, you can go to at Unbreakable Dads, or if you don't have Instagram and you want to reach out, you can go to www.unbreakabledads.com, and you can contact us right through the form on my website.
Bryan, thanks so much for being with us here on the show today.
Thank you. Appreciate your time, Steve.
Growing up secure is so important. It makes us powerful as children to grow up to be powerful adults. And then what kind of cybersecurity can we do so that we're providing safe and secure materials and software out of the world? What is security? What does a secure future look like in that world today? Let's ask our next guest. Join me in welcoming Laura Bell-Main. Hey, Laura, how you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing really good, thanks. Start us off by telling us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Well, I'm a little bit of a chaos monkey, I'm going to be honest. I am part software developer, part security person, and I run a growing startup out of New Zealand that helps teams bring security to what they're doing without getting in the way of all of the cool innovation they actually want to do.
Now, when you're talking about security, are you talking mostly like technology, computer security, or are you talking, like personnel security?
Yeah, mostly in the tech space. So, particularly all those amazing applications and technologies that we're building all around the world right now. We specialize in making sure that those attackers, those hackers, have a bit of a bad time. We want to make them cry, make them work for their ill-gotten gains. So we focus just on software security.
So let's talk a little bit about security because there are very important things that need to be guarded against. And then there's a whole lot of things that, your grandmother's afraid of that would really probably never happen, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
um, my favorite one, and then I'll let you talk about a couple of them. I remember a guy telling me that he didn't want to hook his computer up to the internet because he was afraid that his refrigerator was going to get a virus.
Wow. Well, it's interesting, right? That once upon a time that would have been an urban legend, but now we have like I think Samsung are making internet connected fridges, and while I don't think we're at viruses yet, I definitely have seen them blue screen and have a bit of a bad day. So it's very interesting. For me, there's the divide between the very unsexy, very boring attacks that we see day in, day out, and they account for 80% of internet crime is things like people guessing passwords, or it's people who've left something insecure, or they haven't updated their software so that there's a known vulnerability in it. So that's kind of the meat and vegetables of software security is these really boring basics that we have to do consistently over every bit of technology we have, which can be quite hard. And then on the other end, the big Hollywood style, breaches that we all we like to talk about but aren't very common. So, nation state attacks, government sponsored hackers, while there are definitely organizations out there that do have that on their threat model, their list of risks that are possible. For most of us, the biggest thing that's going to get us and our software is just choosing bad passwords or forgetting to take basic steps consistently, which is really boring, really. But that's actually kind of life, right? We don't always think about all of the common ways that we could be harmed or hurt. We like to think about the big exciting ones because our brain likes dopamine. And so it's often those simple ones that get us in the end.
It's always the case. It's always the thing you knew you shouldn't have done that you did that's really the worst. Although I do hope everybody has a more secure password these days than I remember a friend of mine who his password was password because it said enter password, so he did.
Oh, bless. That's beautiful. I like to ask friends, and I consider all of our listeners now new friends, so hello. Um, how old is your password, and is it old enough to have started school? And if you have a password in your life that is old enough to be in kindergarten, then it's time to say goodbye to that password. And let it go off on its own adventures and get a new one. So maybe that could be a fun thing that you could do, when you're listening to this, just think about your passwords like that.
I love that. Is your password old enough to start? You should do a whole entire book about is your password old enough to start school?
That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
That's awesome. So, when we do talk about the kind of things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, you're working more with the software. So do you work with the software developers as they're creating it so that they don't do the little things that are easy to do, but probably shouldn't be done because then they leave great big holes?
Yeah, I kind of work on both sides. So I work a lot with lots of organizations all around the world. And I say 60% of what I do is with the software teams. So, getting them to think differently. And it's not about, the technicalities and the syntax that they write. It's about learning to look at a design, looking at a system and go, I wonder what would happen if, and bringing that curiosity and that playfulness so that we can think about what could go wrong in advance. And then by thinking about it, we can then start going, well, I could stop that by. So by having those two things combined, that curiosity and play, and then a plan, we can actually resolve a lot of the issues we see in software. The other side I do is I work with the people who run the companies. So to try and help them understand what this means to them, how exciting the technology can be, but what steps we need to make sure we prioritize to make sure that we last a long time as an organization, that we don't take unnecessary risk, and that we find that balance of going fast and doing cool stuff with making sure that we, lock the door before we leave the house, that kind of thing.
So for the average person who is, going day to day, besides making sure that your password isn't old enough to be in high school, I know there's a few of you out there listening that your password is graduated and has a master's degree now, but that's a whole different story.
Let it go, team.
What are some of the other kind of things that we as people should know about that we probably don't know?
Sure. And let's bring it completely non-tech. So we'll keep it super simple. Think about the things you use all the time. So for me, I've always got my cell phone with me and I've got small children in my life. So there's a number of like devices that kick around my life. The easiest thing you can do to keep yourself safe is to actually clean house on things like your devices. So you can either keep all the software you have and keep it up to date. So turn on all those auto updates so that, patches while you're sleeping. Or even better, if you're not using that app or you haven't used it in months and months, or you thought it was kind of rubbish, just delete it. Just get rid of it. Cleaning up, getting rid of those apps reduces what we call in security your attack surface. So if you think about your house, every time you look at your house, I would love for you to think of a different way you would break in. Those ways you would break in are your attack surface, whether it's breaking a window or, finding a spare key. So the software you have on your devices, whether it's a laptop or a phone or a tablet, those are parts of your attack surface. There's something somebody could misuse. So we can reduce it and that makes our life easier. Turning on auto updates, super important. And most of all, let your devices actually restart. Because I know I've been guilty in the past of saying, hey, I'll restart it later. I'll restart it later. It needs to finish the job. So let it do that. And finally, I want you to learn to take a breath and have a cup of tea. Now, let me explain that a bit more. A lot of the crimes that we see online are things like phishing attacks, where somebody sends you an email or a text message and they say, hey, something bad has happened. You need to act now. You're going to miss your package being delivered, or you have a fine to pay, or whatever it is. And we call this social engineering, but in plain English, we mean lying and cheating and stealing. In those cases, whenever you receive something you're not expecting, your body is going to instantly try and respond really quickly. That's what our brain likes to do. And I'd like you instead to take a breath, park it for a second, maybe go and have a cup of tea, and then come back to it. Because by breaking that loop, breaking that cycle of responding quickly, you're more likely to go, hang on, actually, I wasn't expecting a package. Or, hey, I haven't driven recently. Or in some cases, this can't be me. It's not real. So it gives you that time just to let your brain analyze a little bit more than we would naturally do. And for most of us, that will actually get us a long, long way. So good passwords, simple patch technology, and take a breath, have a cup of tea, and slow down your decision making when you're replying to things like emails and texts.
So before I let you go, let's talk about some fun stuff. Let's talk about some of the cool new things that are on the horizon that can help keep us safe.
Oh, there's so much. So I'm guilty of being a bit of I'm very excited about technology. I feel like I'm living in the time where all of the science fiction books that I read growing up, they're all being made, and some of them are horrifying, but some of them are really exciting. So for me, some of the technologies out there that can keep us safe, I mean, a lot of apps and devices now moving away from passwords, which is great. Passwords are terrible. If you think about a proxy as something to stand in for a password, think about your credit card number. How many of us can actually remember long strings of random numbers or letters? We just can't. We're not wired for it. So moving away from passwords to systems where it's going to send you a magic link or it's going to use your facial ID or your fingerprint. While there are circumstances you wouldn't want to do that, for most of us, that's going to be a really good step forward. And the other side is, it can be a bit creepy. And I know that, there's a lot of strong feelings on this. But now a lot of our providers have quite a lot of data on us. So they know what normal looks like. And they call this heuristics. The idea that they can look at the data they have on you and go, actually, this request that's just been made is really out of character for you. Like you'd see on a bank transaction check where they do the fraud checks and they go, hey, we don't think this was you. We're going to stop that right there. And I think the use of those heuristic technologies, those fraud detections, are going to be really great at keeping not just the technical folks safe, but the people that we care about but can't protect themselves so well. So our younger people, our older people, our people who aren't doing tech all day long. And I think between those two combined, that's going to make all of us more secure, not just those of us with the shiniest technology or new devices.
Oh, that is really cool. So for the companies out there that are listening that would love to be able to see just how secure or insecure their stuff is, do you work with, you said you worked with individual companies, correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. All
How
around the
would,
world.
yeah, how would they be able to get in contact with you to work with you?
So the best place to find me is LinkedIn. Come and say hello. I always love meeting new people and listening to what you're up to in the world. You can find more about me as a person at www.laurabellmain.com. And I have a whole bunch of free resources that I'm more than happy to share, white papers and little cool tools and all sorts of things. So don't be shy. Please do reach out. And I would love to get to know folks and see what you're trying to do in the world and how we can make it safer.
So just before I let you go, give us some words of encouragement. Let us know that although often television commercials make us want to be terrified that everybody's going to break into our bank accounts through the internet, that's really not going to happen.
Well, here's the fun thing about banks, right? Everyone says when they talk to me, they're like, oh, yeah, I need security that's like a bank security. But that's actually a really weird urban legend. So I want you to think about this. Your bank has a license to be a bank, regardless where it is in the world. It has to have a license. And as part of that, they have a threshold for what counts as an incident, so something going wrong that would be material to the bank, so that would actually be really harmful. And anything underneath that threshold, they just deal with insurance or they just pay it back. So that threshold is about the third of a value of the deposits in a bank. Now, I don't know about you, but listeners at home, I do not have the third of a value of a bank in my account. I'm certainly not rich in any way, shape, or form. Now, what that means is that for the most part, if there's something goes wrong in my bank account, so long as I've taken those good basic steps like passwords and updating my apps, then my bank is going to help me out. My bank is going to sort it out because they're insured. They have protections. So for most of us, the scariest things that can happen are the things that affect our personal information, our relationships, the things that we really treasure. The rest we can all sort out. So I don't think we need to be scared of hackers doing everything. I think we need to be quite pragmatic and sensible. And instead of being overwhelmed by it, think about the most exciting technology you know of being built right now. Whether it's doctors that can, robot AI doctors that can help us detect cancer earlier without expensive specialists, or whether for me, it's the fact that old people can sit in a retirement home wherever they are, put on a headset and be transported around the world and still continue to see and have adventures. All of that makes it worthwhile and makes that risk a little bit less scary.
I love that so much. Laura, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me. It was really great to meet you.
Cybersecurity is so important, and you really do need it, especially if you're creating software. Something you definitely want to look at. But what about when a problem happens? What about when you're in an accident or somebody sues you or those kind of things? How do you have security? What does a secure future look like in that particular instance? I think this next guest is going to give you some really good insights on that. Join me in welcoming Thomas J. Frank. Hey, Thomas, how you doing today?
Hey, Steve, I'm good. How's everything with you?
Going really good, thanks. First off, tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
So I'm an attorney. Been doing that since 2015. I'm an attorney in New York State and in Florida. And we focus primarily on bankruptcy and commercial litigation and real estate transactions. My partner is actually my wife. We've been running the firm since July 2018. And we got married in 2019. We have 2 kids and we live in Long Island.
I love that. Well, of course, the first question when I talk to attorneys, because it depends on the one I'm talking to, do you practice only specifically in the greater New York area, or do you have things that you do for folks all around the country?
I principally just New York. I'm admitted in Florida, but rarely practicing there. Sometimes if it's a good client and they don't want to find a new attorney, they'll, ask us to step in, but typically just New York.
Okay. So, what kind of help and advice can you give folks that maybe don't live in New York? I mean, of course, obviously later we'll talk to the ones that live near you, how they can work with you, but what kind of help can you and do you love to give to people?
Most advice that I give to people who I'm not representing is consult with an attorney sooner than later. You don't have to wait to the last minute. Most attorneys will do a free consultation for, you know, standard stuff. So if you are thinking about buying a house or you're thinking about filing for bankruptcy or, you're falling behind on your mortgage, consult with attorneys sooner than later. It likely won't cost you anything. And if you consult with the right professional, you can save yourself a lot of heartache. So that's typically what I tell people. Err on the side of caution, just consult with an attorney.
So let's kind of frame that a little bit more. What are the kind of things that people should talk to an attorney about sooner and they either wait way too long or never do? And what are the kind of things that they're always coming to the attorney about that you wish they wouldn't bother you with?
Uh, what I would say to go to attorneys for is to know what your options are. You may have a lot of different options available to you for whatever your particular crisis is. But if you dig your head in the sand, that opportunity may not be available anymore. So it's just really you're not a professional in the law. So meet with someone who is and let them give you the options that are available and meet with a lot of them. A lot of our clients come to us and we're the second or third attorney and they, for lack of a better word, skimped on the first. They thought this will be simple. I'll just hire this attorney, his fees the lowest, and you get what you pay for a lot of times. And then they're coming to us, and maybe some of their rights have been waived, or they can't raise them anymore at this point in time, and they have a real problem. And we're kind of playing off the back foot. So that's the reason why I would say meet with someone and meet with a lot of them, meet with a couple of them in that particular field, look up their reviews. The court system in almost every state is electronic. You could type in that attorney's name and see what cases he's done. Does he regularly practice in the field that you need them for? And if they don't, look for another one. If they do, then maybe you have the person for you. It's really just about educating yourself as much as possible to make the best determination. Hiring a bad attorney is like hiring a bad employee. It could have a lot of ramifications. So the more you inform yourself, the better.
So one of the things that I think I know the answer to, but I'm sure most people don't know is how are attorneys' fees, because you talked about the concept of people try to hire inexpensive, we won't call them cheap, attorney versus somebody that's cost more. Can you explain to us a little bit why it is that the ones that charge more can charge more?
The ones that charge more can charge more because they're doing a lot more, right? They may have much more experience. They may be able to spot issues 100 yards down the line before they become a problem and have the client take corrective action. Uh, they typically communicate much, much better. Let the client know what's going on, what they've done, what's the next steps. I was telling a client that yesterday where they were upset about their prior representation and they said, win, lose, or draw, I'm okay if we lose. because you've explained everything, every option, and we're making a decision. And if we lose, I'm okay with that. I'm not okay if I didn't know the option and they weren't explained to me. So that's what the real difference is. A great attorney is communicating. They're not a jack of all trades. They're in that field and they, for lack of a better term, stay in their lane.
I love that. And I do know that typically when it comes to attorneys, their capability, sometimes that means win-loss record. Sometimes that just means that, the quality of the document that you get, it depends on what kind of attorney you're hiring, is going to be so much more effective from the ones that charge you more than, the guy that you can get, or the one you can download yourself from LegalZoom or something like that.
Right, right. It's yeah, we see, there's some things out there that you can do yourself. In plenty of states, you don't need an attorney for a real estate closing. Florida, Nevada, you don't need an attorney there. You need a good title company. So there's sometimes they're really not necessary, but at least consult with one and let them tell you that. Don't make that decision for yourself. I've had maybe of all my clients, maybe less than 1% were capable of handling the problem themselves. And it was either because they were really, really, really experienced in that field and they've seen 100 other attorneys do it and they were just fine with taking care of it themselves. But more often than not, that's not the case.
Mm, I really love that. So let's talk specifically about some of the things that you're an expert in. When it comes to bankruptcy, what kind of I mean, it kind of has a stigma about it, but when are the times when it really is kind of better? And I know I'm asking a very generic question, but that it is kind of better to do that versus just trying to slog your way through paying everything off.
Well, the answer to that is um, if you look at your standard credit card statement and it says if you make the minimum payments, it'll tell you how long it'll take you to pay it off. And that's usually something around 30 years. So if you have a really high amount of debt and you're barely holding on, and we're able to protect your assets and you qualify for bankruptcy, then it makes a lot of sense because you're never going to dig yourself out of that hole. In this scenario, there's some people who can. There's some people who have really high net individuals and they've had an issue come up and they resolve it and then they get themselves back to where they were. And those individuals don't need to do that. They could, likely resolve the debt outside of bankruptcy. But for someone who's a W-2 employee, uh, climbing yourself out of a mountain of debt is unlikely. And there used to be, prior to my time, more of a stigma for bankruptcy. I don't really see that as much. My mentor, who was an expert in bankruptcy, he would say the same thing. Used to be worse, not so much. When I would watch him do consultations, he would just walk through the benefits to the client, every single one, and what the drawbacks are. This will be a flag on your credit report. It'll be a flag on your credit score, rather. If you file Chapter 7, it'll stay there for 10 years. If you file Chapter 13, it'll stay for 7. A lot of people want to know, when could I theoretically get a mortgage again? So we just walk through those timelines. And some people know I'm not going to be able to get a mortgage from an income perspective for 4 years anyway. So why not? At least I'll be clear of all this debt and then my credit will rebound and then I could apply to purchase a home. There's a software that bankruptcy attorneys use. It's called Best Case. And that is a tool that bankruptcy attorneys can use to fill out the petition and schedules, assist them with the applicable law, and it'll tell you, you could run the client's credit report right there. And it'll tell you what your current credit score is now and what your credit score will be 12 months from now. And it's almost always a 50 to 100 point jump. So in a year, you've gotten rid of all that debt, the unsecured debt, and now your credit score is higher than it was. So in my opinion, the benefits to the right candidate, the benefits far outweigh the drawbacks. But everyone's different, and that's the importance of a good consultation, maybe meeting with more than one attorney, to just talk out the different options that are available.
I really love that. So let's talk specifically about people that are in your area. Tell us some specifics about where you are, how they can connect with you. Is there some online resources you have first, or do they just book an appointment and come into your office, or how does that work these days?
I would say based on like our current client pool, let's say a third find us online, a third come to us from referral sources, and maybe a third is existing clients coming back. So a lot of people find us online. We have excellent reviews. We, we teach bankruptcy in continuing legal education courses. Those classes are online, so we're teaching other attorneys the basics of bankruptcy, the basics of foreclosure. For my partner, the basics of legal ethics. So there's information out there that you could see that we're a credible source. And then it's just easy to give us a call or fill out the form on our website. And we usually respond to potential clients within minutes. So they don't have that. It's a stressful situation. There's some clients who they're so stressed about it that to make that leap to call an attorney was like Herculean for them. It was such a massive undertaking just to make the call. So the least we can do is call them back quickly and start working through the options. And almost every time they're so gracious that they feel so much better because they know what the options are now. Called someone, they made that leap, and they got what they needed out of it. And that's how a good portion of our clients find us through online.
I love that. And give us your URL again.
It's www.frankfirmpc.com. P as in Paul, C as in Christopher.
I love that. Well, before I let you go, give us some words of encouragement. You said just a few minutes ago, it can be a really stressful situation. Let us know that there is hope in this thing that we're dealing with and we've been trying to deal with ourselves, that getting the right attorney can really help us out.
There's plenty of hope, right? To let people know, a lot of times people are the most concerned about losing their home for obvious reasons. And letting them know that there are options to resolve that issue lifts such a burden off of them. So it's really the same, advice or feedback rather. It's just get on the phone with somebody sooner than later. Because, for example, in New York, there's a statute of limitations for mortgage foreclosures, and it's a really hotly litigated issue. So there are clients of ours who we got their home for them free and clear, right? We were able to expunge their mortgage from the premises because the statute of limitations expired. So it could be massive. It could be a massive benefit. But, until you contact us and we go through that comprehensive consultation, you won't know.
Well, Thomas, I really appreciate the time that you spent here, giving us just a little bit of information. And I hope people will reach out to you. Thanks for being here with us on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
All right. So what did we learn? Something comes up. You may need an attorney. Consult the attorney. Get the help and advice. Do it sooner as opposed to later. Don't try to work it out yourself. Don't try to wonder or wish you had later. Just go ahead and get the help and advice. Go see that professional and see what kind of things you probably don't even know to know until you actually do consult that attorney. That's another way to help you know what a secure future looks like. What's one more thing? Well, we need to have our company established in the kind of way that really secures a great future for us. How can we do that? Join me in welcoming Dan Brownshire. Hey, Dan, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here with us. First off, tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Yeah. So let's see. I'm Dan. I live in Las Vegas. I've been here for about 10 years, but I'm a Midwest guy. I've got a wife, 2 young kids, 6-year-old twins, and I run a full service channel management agency for brands on Amazon called Channel Key.
So what is a channel management agency for people who don't know?
Good question. So Amazon has built this obviously a very large business, and there's an ecosystem around their retail business and their advertising business specifically. So my clients are brand owners and manufacturers that sell products on the Amazon marketplace. So my job, being their agency that supports them on Amazon, is to make sure that their catalog looks great, make sure that their their analytics and their forecasting are in line to support a growing and profitable business on the platform. We run their entire retail media spend through the Amazon marketplace, from their search ads to their DSP and programmatic and upper funnel ads. And we create really robust strategic business plans for our clients around how to build a best-in-class business on Amazon. And then my team goes ahead and executes that business plan for them.
I love that. So when it comes to the overall program, you said part of it includes advertising on Amazon. What does
Yeah.
a person need to figure, generally speaking, they're going to need to spend on a monthly basis in ads on Amazon to be effective?
Yeah, really good question. So we've got clients that are selling $1 million a year in products on Amazon, and clients that are doing $100 million a year on Amazon. And the answer to your question is that it varies and it depends. And then it's nuanced in that, different products or category types, or products that are earlier stage or later stage in their life cycle, might have a different budget as compared to their sales. Okay. So in essence, more established brands that people know, that people search for, and for products that have been around for a long time, on average, brands can expect to spend anywhere from 5, maybe 10, maybe 12% of their sales on Amazon advertising. And for brands that are less new, or for products that are less established, or for brands that have less search volume, you might have to spend a lot more than that. Upwards of 50, 60, sometimes 100% of your sales might need to go towards advertising to build organic placement and traction on the marketplace.
So typically you're talking about products. Like, for example, do you work with books and authors? I mean, just because we're talking Amazon, that's kind of where they started. Do you do any of that?
We do. It's a smaller part of our business, but we actually have a legacy brand client that sells encyclopedias, and so we've sold encyclopedias, and we sell a lot of kids books and other business or other types of books as well. So yes, we do. It's a smaller subset of our business, but it's been very successful for us.
So for an author, because I work with a lot of those, what kind of things do they need to have in place before they even think about doing advertising and those kind of stuff? What really makes up a person's brand, if you will, on Amazon?
Yeah. So, and you're referencing authors specifically, or just any type of company that either sells something or has a product to sell?
Well, I'm sorry, Dan, I asked you two questions simultaneously. Let's
No, you're good.
start with just generically, what does a person need
Yeah.
to have established, to have a brand on Amazon?
A really good question. So there are some basic fundamentals on Amazon that are, I think, required to be successful. And Amazon's got this concept of being retail ready. Okay, so in essence, if you're a brand, and you can either be a seller on Amazon or a vendor to Amazon. Okay, so if you're a seller, then you are in essence selling direct to consumer on Amazon, and a vendor, you're selling to Amazon at wholesale, and Amazon becomes your retailer. But these core ideas around retail ready are the same. Okay, so you've got to build out your product detail pages, very robust images, bullet points, descriptions that are rich in keywords that are useful or indicative of a search that might yield your product to display in Amazon's search algorithm. And then if the consumer finds your product detail page and listing, and when they click on it, it's got to drive a high conversion rate. So the way you drive a high conversion rate is with high quality reviews, high quality content. It could be a brand store. It could be something called A+ content, which is HTML content that's below the fold. So in essence, you need to do those core elements, and you need to have an offering in Prime, right? So you want to make sure that the 100+ million Prime members can leverage their Prime membership and get free 2-day shipping and free returns by buying your product because Amazon is such a trusted brand and Prime is such a trusted membership program. You want to be able to make sure that buyers can buy your products via Prime. And so what that basically means is that Amazon's got to be able to do the fulfillment. So I think those are the core elements. And whether you sell, dog treats or dog toys or books or any category, you got to have some of these kind of core concept retail ready elements in place.
I absolutely love that. So when we think specifically, we'll go to my second question now. When we think
Yeah.
specifically about an author, what are some of the kind of things that, and I would guess probably more than anything, you see that they miss? What are the kind of things that they need in order to really have a successful brand on Amazon?
So we generally don't work with like single authors. Okay. We generally work with publishers who have a multitude of different titles and categories that they support. Okay. So if I'm an author, okay, what I would want to make sure I have in place is making sure I've got the right account type set up, right? You can have a seller central account on Amazon. Got some clients that have it's something called an Amazon Advantage account, and making sure that you've got the right account set up. And then beyond that, you need to make sure your listing is live and active. You've got the varying degrees of types of books that you want to sell. It'd be a hardback, right, book or a soft book, or maybe it's Kindle Direct Publishing. You want to make sure you have a wide offering of assortment that supports different types of consumers. And then you got to do the basics. You got to have the good catalog work, the good imagery work. Ideally, have a good story about who you are as an author that might drive and compel consumers to buy. Generally speaking, books is interesting. In a lot of cases, I think the consumer is directly searching for the title that they want. And so, in that case, assuming you've got a good, credible listing and an offering that's competitively priced and wide enough that can support different ways that people consume your material, I think you're good to go. Whereas if you're a publisher, you've got a broad assortment and a bunch of different types of books where somebody might be browsing. You need to make sure that you're spending money on advertising and that you are playing the Amazon algorithm and search game to make sure your products are really indexing in search. So it depends on the scenario. You want to do the basics well, and part of it depends on whether or not people are directly searching for your title or they are broadly searching for a concept or a topic like kids' books or something like that.
So what is the one thing that when people come to you, you find that they've done that just makes you want to pull your hair out? It's like, I wish people wouldn't do that, but it happens all the time.
Yeah, so there's and I don't want to get too technical. There's something called the Amazon Buy Box, okay, which basically means that if you're a consumer and you go to click on the add to cart button, there is a seller listed that is going to get the sale. Okay, if that person at that moment in time when that person clicks that add to cart button, the seller who owns the buy box or is in the buy box is going to win the sale. There could be 50 sellers of the same exact item on the same product detail page, right? So 50 people, and let's just use a pair of Nike socks, right? There could be 50 different sellers of the exact same pair of Nike socks. And Amazon determines who is in the buy box based on whether or not they're using Amazon fulfillment and price point and a few other factors. The biggest issue that I see with brand owners that want to sell their products and have a really good customer experience on Amazon is they have very leaky distribution, meaning they've got a lot of gray market goods where there are a bunch of different resellers of their product that somehow they're buying their product through some channel and then turning around and reselling it on the Amazon marketplace. And in most cases, competing directly with the brand itself. Okay, so there's this concept of leaky distribution or gray market goods that, in my opinion, prohibit brands from really maximizing the best outcomes possible on the Amazon marketplace. So I implore brands always to maintain very clean distribution.
I love that a whole lot. So what is something that somebody's just kind of dipping their toe in with Amazon, something that they could do themselves right now, just from having listened to us?
I think if you are a entrepreneur that is interested in starting a business, Amazon is a great place for that. And in essence, what they've really done is democratized the ability to sell products on the internet. You don't have to rely on finding a distributor or building multi-layer distribution to sell products anymore. You can literally spin up a company, pay $40 a month to have a professional Seller Central account, source products on the internet, and sell them directly through one of the highest traffic marketplaces that exists. And they can do the fulfillment for you, and you can run ads for you. So it's really cool, but it's also really competitive. So what I would do for younger entrepreneurs or folks that are interested in selling on Amazon is do your research. Okay, there's a bunch of tools that exist for sellers where you can help handicap different products or different markets or different brands, and you can understand how much revenue they're doing, how profitable they are, how many different competing brands there are in a given category, how much money you might need to advertise to be successful in the platform. And so get familiar with the Amazon KPIs. Get familiar with what products are working and what not working, and those that are not working. Get familiar with the Amazon margin profile, because it's getting harder and harder to be profitable on Amazon. You may be able to sell a lot of volume on Amazon, but if it's not profitable, it doesn't matter. And so if I'm a younger entrepreneur, newer seller, I would invest in some of these tools. They're actually really cheap and in some cases free, like a Jungle Scout or a Helium 10, or there's a host of others that can help give you market insights and data insights for the retail volume and who the players are on Amazon.
That is amazing. And Dan, for people who know that what the smart thing to do is to work with you, how can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, well said, Steve. So we're super active around putting content out. I'm personally active on LinkedIn, so you can find me on LinkedIn. Just search Dan Brownshire. You can go to our website, which is channelkey.com. We post a lot of blog content out of our website, so read our blogs. There's a form for that on the website. You can check us out on our YouTube channel. We're very active in putting content out and videos out on YouTube. So those are the ways. You can also search us or search Channel Key, and it's pretty easy. But LinkedIn, I think, is either the best or the website.
I love that. And I do hope a bunch of you will go and talk to Dan and have him really take your Amazon listing to the next level. Dan, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Steve. Appreciate it.
Growing up, life and business, growing our business. What does a secure future look like? Did you get some ideas? These were some powerful guests that gave you some really great insights into things that you can do to secure your future and to secure your present, so that then the future is secure. Because more than anything, what a secure future looks like is you making smart decisions now so that the future can take care of itself when it gets here. And that's what a secure future looks like. With that said, I want to remind you that you are uniquely brilliant. You were created for a purpose, and the world needs you. They need you to have a secure future. They need you to show up. They need you to live every day of your life as a thriving entrepreneur. Until we're together again next time, I hope that you have a great week.
Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today. If you want to get your question answered, send an email to questions@wehelpyouthrive.com. We look forward to you joining us again next time.
Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I am a third-generation minister, an international best-selling author of multiple books, and I help people write, publish, and market their books to bestseller. In fact, there are literally thousands of people that have used the system that I created to be able to write, publish, and market their books, and now they're best-selling authors. And you're next. I just wanted to come on for a minute, say hi to you, tell you a little bit about me, introduce myself, and tell you I know the world is waiting on your message, and I would be so honored to be part of sharing your message with the world. Go to AskSteveKid.com and schedule a time to talk today.